Inspiring journey. Single black dad transforms CEO's daughter's life in an incredible 30 days. Marcus stood under the glow of the street lamp, its flickering light casting long shadows on the cracked pavement. The city was alive around him, the heartbeat of Philadelphia echoing through the vibrant neighborhood he called home. He had just finished a 12-hour shift as a janitor at the local high school, and now he was preparing himself for another night as an Uber driver. His body ached, but the thought of his son, Jordan, kept him moving. Every dollar mattered. Every minute counted. Giving Jordan a chance and opportunity to dream bigger than the limits of their zip code was worth every sacrifice. As Marcus pulled into the driveway, he saw Jordan sitting at their small kitchen table, studying hard. "Hey kid, how's that homework?" Marcus asked, pulling off his jacket and boots. The warmth of their little apartment embraced him, but it was the light in Jordan's eyes that warmed his heart. "Just finishing math, Dad. You wouldn't believe what I learned today?" Marcus smiled. It was moments like these that filled the cracks in his tired spirit. He used to sit with his own father, sharing stories and lessons about life, work, and respect. He wanted the same for Jordan. "Do you remember the values I taught you?" Marcus began, his voice low yet steady. "Hard work, respect, community, those are the tools that will build your future." He poured a cup of water and nodded as Jordan shared his dreams of becoming an engineer. "Then you gotta chase it, son. Don't let anyone or anything hold you back." But as he tucked Jordan into bed that night, an unsettling worry snaked its way around Marcus's heart. Could he keep delivering those dreams? Could his sacrifices ensure a better future? Across the city, Jessica scrolled through social media in her lavish suburban home, surrounded by luxuries that felt more like chains than gifts. Her father's voice thundered over her shoulder, reminding her of the family reputation that hung over her like a dark cloud. No freedom, no connection, just expectations. She felt trapped in the gilded cage of privilege. Despite her father's power, the emptiness tightened in her chest. All the money in the world couldn't buy her true happiness. The next evening, a community charity event brought Marcus and Jessica together. Standing before a crowd, Marcus spoke with raw passion, sharing the struggles of his community. "We rise by lifting others," he declared, his voice ringing in the echoing hall. Jessica felt drawn to the man who stood so firmly in his truth. As their eyes met, she sensed his strength where she felt only weakness. "Can I learn from you?" Jessica asked after his speech. Each word felt like a leap off a cliff for her, and yet, she knew she had to try. Marcus hesitated, but then nodded. Perhaps he could show her the heart of his world. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Initially, their worlds clashed. Jessica's stories of corporate internship failures felt alien to Marcus, while her insistent plea for purpose seemed naive. "Let us volunteer at a shelter together," Marcus suggested, desperation in his voice. Jessica's eyes widened in fear. That world seemed wild, chaotic, and foreign. But finally, she agreed. As they stepped into the realm of the homeless, the icy barriers in Jessica's heart slowly began to thaw. Each smile, each handshake with those who had lost everything yet remained resilient ignited hope. But trouble brewed. Whispers began to circulate. Words like unfit and ridiculous echoed in their ears. As they navigated this treacherous space, the world outside started to crumble. When Jessica's father's scandal broke, an investigation into corruption tied to the very community funds Marcus had rallied for it felt personal. Marcus felt like the ground beneath him was shattering, just as hope began to take root. Trusting someone so entangled in privilege made him question everything he stood for. Together, they'd have to confront their fears and the judgment casting shadows over their burgeoning friendship. Could their bond survive the chaos? Would they find strength in one another? Or would the forces threatening to tear them apart prevail? The answers lay ahead. Marcus paced his small kitchen, the fluorescent light humming above him, creating a strange buzz that mirrored the chaos in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything was coming apart. He leaned against the counter, breath steadying, as he thought about the whispers that had begun swirling around Jessica and himself. Unfit. Ridiculous. Those words replayed like a broken record, cutting deeper than he wanted to admit. That night, the weight of a community's expectations felt like a boulder on his chest. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Jessica had shown a willingness to understand, to cross the divide that had separated their worlds. Through the shelter's interactions, he could see the walls she built around her heart slowly crumbling. There was potential there, something golden that could shine through the grime. On the other side of town, Jessica wrestled with her own thoughts. She sat on her bed, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The golden edges of her life felt tarnished now. The privilege that had wrapped around her like a blanket began to suffocate her. Her father's scandal felt like a storm, throwing her into unfamiliar territory. She had opened herself up to Marcus, to his world, but now doubts crept in. What if she was just a distraction for him? What if their friendship led to even more chaos, tearing apart both their lives? Am I a charity case? She whispered to herself, and the silence of her room echoed back. The next day, the weight of their precarious situation pressed on both of them. At the shelter, it felt different. People were gossiping, their eyes darting to Marcus and Jessica. When they walked in together, the murmurs sharpened, cutting through the warmth of the community space, casting an uneasy shadow over their intentions. Yet, as they began handing out meals, connections sparked. Jessica's hands trembled at first. Serving food felt heavier than she imagined. But every smile she received from those they served ignited something inside her. Joy, purpose, a sensation she had long desired, but never found. See that? Marcus gestured towards an older woman with bright blue eyes who had just thanked them. Every smile is a story. Each person matters. This is the heart of community. The passion in his voice drew Jessica in, and for a moment, her fears receded. As they worked side by side, laughter crept in, shared jokes lightening the atmosphere. Marcus could feel Jessica slowly shedding her layers. But tension still crackled in the air. Just when it seemed they might bridge the gulf between their lives, a loud argument erupted nearby. A man, clearly on edge, confronted another, and the tension in the shelter thickened. Marcus's heart raced as he moved toward the fray. "Hey, let us keep it calm," he said, his voice steady. But the rising anger was too palpable. Jessica watched, her palms sweating. She felt torn. Should she step in? Was she stepping beyond her place? But she couldn't just stand still. She took a deep breath and followed Marcus. "Everyone needs to feel safe here," she added, glancing at Marcus and feeling invigorated by the resolve that surged within her. The arguments hushed, and eyes turned to them. For a moment, silence blanketed the room. They stood together, side by side, a united front against the chaos. But would that be enough? Was this the turning point they both needed, or the moment that would expose their weaknesses? As the tension eased, Marcus caught Jessica's eye. There was something electric there. Could they really fuse their worlds, learn from one another, and face whatever came next? The answers hung in the air like unfulfilled promises. Change was happening, but the real test was yet to come. Would they rise together or fall apart? What storms awaited them next? The tension in the air had barely lifted when Jessica turned to Marcus, something new flickering in her blue eyes. "Do you want to grab a coffee after this?" she asked, her voice as steady as she could muster. It was an innocuous suggestion, yet the weight behind it felt monumental. Marcus hesitated. The risk he was taking felt like diving into an abyss, a leap without knowing what lay below. But looking into her hopeful gaze inspired him to take that chance. "Yeah," he replied softly, "I'd like that." After the chaos settled, they exchanged casual banter with the guests, serving up plates with a renewed sense of camaraderie. The laughter echoed, but lurking behind it was an ever-persistent fear. How would they truly connect outside this bustling atmosphere? When they finally stepped outside, the sun blazed down on them, illuminating the world in vibrant hues. Jessica squinted, pulling her hair back in a messy bun. The humidity clung to her skin, but she felt alive. "Where's south your favorite coffee place?" she asked, her cheeks slightly flushed. "Not far from here," he said, stealing a glance at her. "It's got the best donuts, too. Fair warning." "Ooh, I like donuts. Are they the glazed kind?" She joked, her laughter bubbling like champagne. The walk was light, yet Marcus felt a heaviness in the potential conversation ahead. They entered the coffee shop, the familiar aroma hitting them like a warm hug. He ordered their drinks, hoping to settle his jitters with caffeine. As they took their seats, the casual ambience shifted. Jessica's posture straightened, her light-hearted facade fading. "About today," she started, her voice trailing off as she searched for the right words. "I really meant it when I said everyone deserves to feel safe." Marcus leaned forward, eager to understand the depths of her concern. "It was brave what you did, standing up like that. Most people would just looked away." Jessica fidgeted, spinning her cup in her hands. "What if they see me as some charity case? Just helping out because I feel guilty about everything?" "No one sees you that way," he reassured her, his heart pounding. "You're doing this because you care. But what if I end up hurting you too?" She looked up, her gaze searching his face for understanding. "I don't want to be a burden or a complication. This is all messy." "I get it," he said softly. "But relationships are messy. They're about sharing the parts that scare us. That's how we grow, right?" For a moment, they both sat in silence, the weight of the world hanging between them. It was as though Marcus could feel her walls, her fears, pushing against his own uncertainty. He reached across the table and gently nudged her hand. "You're not alone in this. We'll figure it out, whatever it is. Together." Tears welled in her eyes, glistening in the soft light. "Do you really mean that?" "Of course," he assured, his voice firm. "You showed me that you're more than your father's mistakes." A loud crash interrupted their moment, the door slamming open. A woman rushed in, wild-eyed and panicked. "Help! My son, he's gone." Marcus and Jessica exchanged alarmed glances. Would this be the moment that unravels all they had just begun to stitch together? Marcus felt the familiar stirrings of urgency. "Let us go," he urged Jessica, heart racing. "We can help." Together, they stood, ready to face the unknown. What awaited them outside was uncertain, but one thing was clear. This newly forged bond would be tested in ways they hadn't yet anticipated. What would happen next? Would they rise to the challenge together, or be overwhelmed by the chaos knocking at their doorstep? The woman's voice carried a desperation that sent a chill up Marcus's spine. He pushed the door open wider, allowing Jessica to step out first. The bright daylight suddenly felt harsh against the urgency swirling inside him. "Where did you last see him?" he asked the woman, his voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. "He was just playing outside," she said, panic etched into her features. "I turned for just a moment, and he was gone. Please, you have to help." Jessica's hand found Marcus's, their fingers intertwining instinctively. He glanced at her, and she met his gaze, fear flickering alongside determination in her blue eyes. It was silent, but a mutual understanding passed between them. They were in this together. "Okay," Marcus said, heart racing. "We'll figure this out. Let us start by checking the park nearby." The woman nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Yes, the park is just down the block. He loves the swings." They began to move quickly, the woman leading the way. Each step felt heavier than the last, but Marcus focused on the rhythm. He looked to Jessica, who was scanning the surrounding area, determined to catch a glimpse of the missing boy. As they neared the park, the sound of children laughing grew louder. Hope flickered in Marcus's chest, battling with a knot of anxiety. Would they find him? Would they be too late? When they reached the entrance, the playful chaos of the playground unfolded before them. Children were swinging, sliding, and playing together, but the sight felt tainted by the weight of their mission. "Is he there?" Jessica asked the mother, her voice barely a whisper, filled with concern. "I don't know," the woman replied, her voice cracking. We always play by the big oak tree." They hurried toward the towering tree, eyes scanning every corner for the boy's small frame. The air felt thick, each second ticking slower. They reached the tree, and Marcus's heart dropped when he didn't see him. "Let us check the other side," he suggested, and they moved around the trunk, desperation clawing at him. "Joshua," the mother called out, and Jessica joined in, her voice rising above the laughter around them. "Joshua, where are you?" As they rounded the tree, they spotted a small boy crouching behind a large bush. Relief washed over them, filling the space where fear had resided moments earlier. "Joshua," his mother cried, rushing forward, arms wide. The boy looked up, confused, then bolted into her embrace, tears spilling onto his cheeks. Marcus and Jessica exchanged glances, relief evident in their quick, shared smile. This was a brief moment of joy amidst the chaos that had threatened to engulf them. "We found him," Marcus said softly to Jessica, their hands still linked. "Thank God," Jessica breathed, relief flooding her features. But just as they both exhaled, a louder crash echoed from the nearby street. Marcus's heart raced again, not from joy but from a deepening fear. He turned to see smoke rising into the air, panicked voices rising above it. "Stay here," he shouted to the mother as he and Jessica took off toward the source of the commotion. "Marcus, be careful," Jessica called, but he was already moving, heart in a frantic dance. The world was shifting again, and they hadn't even fully embraced the connection they had just begun to forge. What awaited them around the corner was another challenge altogether. Could they maintain their bond amidst growing chaos? Would they become the heroes they so desperately wanted to be? Marcus ran faster, the smoke getting thicker as they pushed through the crowd gathering on the sidewalk. He could hardly breathe, but somehow he found energy in the urgency of the moment. Jessica kept pace with him, her expression shifting from concern to determination. As they rounded the corner, the scene unfolded like a nightmare. A small delivery truck had collided with a parked car, crumpling its front end. Shattered glass sprinkled the pavement like tiny stars, and a couple of bystanders were shouting, pointing frantically. The air was heavy with the sharp scent of burning rubber and something more unsettling. "Is anyone hurt?" Marcus shouted, scanning the wreckage for signs of danger. He spotted a figure slumped in the front seat of the truck, barely visible through the shattered windshield. "Marcus!" Jessica's voice broke through the commotion. She pointed toward the driver's side. "We need to check on them." Without thinking, Marcus dashed toward the truck, adrenaline propelling him forward as he approached the crumpled vehicle. He could hear sirens approaching in the distance, but minutes felt like hours in this moment. "Hey, can you hear me?" He yelled into the cab, his heart pounding as he pulled open the door, metal groaning in protest. The driver, an older man, was unconscious, blood trickling down his forehead. Panic surged again, but Marcus pushed it down. "We need to get him out," he called back to Jessica. She pushed through the crowd and reached his side. Together, they carefully assessed the situation. "On three, we pull him out, okay?" Marcus nodded, trying to be the anchor in the storm of uncertainty swirling around them. Jessica's eyes held a mix of fear and focus as they prepared to work together. 1, 2, 3. With a strong heave, they pulled the man from the truck. He was heavier than they anticipated, and Jessica stumbled slightly as he nearly slipped from their grasp. They managed to drop him on the grass, away from the danger of the wreck. "Someone call 911. Jessica yelled, her voice cracking. Marcus checked the man's pulse, his fingers trembling. It was faint, but there he was still alive. He began talking to him, grounding himself and the man. "Hey, you're all right. Help is coming. Just hold on." Jessica knelt beside him, her presence steadying him in the face of the unknown. The sirens grew louder, and the sight of flashing lights cut through the chaos like a beacon of hope. But as the paramedics rushed in, Marcus felt the pull of something deeper, a recognition of how fragile life could be. Jessica, monitoring the commotion, caught his eye. "We did something good here, Marcus. He is going to be okay because we stepped in." At that moment, amidst the frantic energy swirling around them, Marcus realized how intertwined their lives had become in such a short period. They were no longer just two people drawn together by circumstance. They were partners, sharing the weight of the world in a way that felt new and profound. As the paramedics worked to stabilize the man, Marcus stepped back, aware of the reality stretching out before them. "What if we hadn't been here, Jess? What if we failed?" Before Jessica could answer, another explosion of noise drew their attention. A figure emerged from the shadows, face obscured but demeanor hostile. Marcus's heart sank as he recognized the potential for violence in the air. "What is happening now?" Jessica whispered, eyes wide as the chaos re-intensified. He squeezed her hand tightly. "Stay close, no matter what." But in that moment, Marcus knew what began as trying to be heroes was racing towards something more dangerous. A test of their bond lay ahead, and it would challenge everything they had just built. Would they rise together or fall apart when faced with the true threat lurking just beyond the mayhem? The figure stepped into the flickering light of the ambulance's lamps. Marcus could see only the silhouette, but the energy crackling in the air felt unmistakably menacing. Jess's grip tightened around his hand as they instinctively moved closer together, their hearts racing in sync. "What do you think they want?" she whispered, voice trembling. Concern clouded her features. Worry etched in the lines of her furrowed brow. Marcus shook his head, narrowing his eyes at the stranger. "I don't know, but I don't think it's good." People around them began to notice, murmurs rising from the crowd. A sense of unease settled over the scene, thick as the smoke fading but lingering in the air. The paramedics, previously focused on saving the injured man, withdrew slightly, their professionalism cracking under the reality of an unanticipated threat. "You two," the shadowy figure's voice dripped with a chilling calmness. "You think you're heroes, huh? You think you saved him?" Marcus straightened his posture, instinct pushing him forward. "We did what anyone would do." Jess squeezed his hand harder, yet her eyes shone with a fierce determination. "What do you want?" She shot back defiantly, refusing to let fear dictate their response. The figure took a step closer, revealing a face marred by shadows and anger. "What you did today, it put the spotlight on us. You don't understand how this works." Marcus's stomach nodded. "What do you mean, how this works?" A low, humorless laugh escaped the figure's lips. "You think you can interrupt the order of things? You think you can play hero without consequences?" "Consequences?" Jessica's voice rose, leaving no space for doubt. "We saved a life. That's all that matters." At that moment, the air felt electric. The crowd shared in this tension, breaths held, as if the world paused to witness this standoff. The figure scanned the bystanders, weighing the reactions. A glimmer of uncertainty flashed in their eyes before focusing back on Marcus and Jessica. "What you don't know is that sometimes, saving one life can put many at risk, especially when you don't understand who you're dealing with." Marcus felt the weight of those words. Adrenaline coursed through him, inching toward anger. "Then tell us, what should we understand?" The stranger leaned in closer, intensity blazing in their gaze. "You think you're invincible because you've pulled someone from fire, but there are worse flames out there. You may have saved one life today, but who knows what you've stirred?" Before Marcus could respond, sirens blared louder, their wails masking the impending confrontation. Paramedics finished their work and began pulling the man onto a stretcher, ready to whisk him away. The figure straightened, a menacing smile curling their lips, as if reveling in the theatrics of the moment. "Consider this a warning. The fire you've ignited is just beginning. Watch your backs." With that, they melted back into the shadows, leaving a cold tension hanging thicker than before. Marcus turned, heart thudding. His focus snapped to Jessica, who looked both frightened and invigorated. "What does that mean?" she gasped, her wide eyes reflecting both fear and determination. They stood there, caught in a world that had turned upside down in a matter of moments. Marcus gulped, still processing. "I don't know, but we can't back down now. We need to figure this out. Together. And keep each other safe." But as they faced the aftermath, a lingering dread settled in Marcus's chest. He knew their lives had just become infinitely more complicated, clouded by unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. What had they really stepped into? The next thing they faced wouldn't just be an emergency, it would be a fight for everything they believed in. And now where would that fight lead them? The shadows seemed to linger, curling around Marcus and Jess as they exchanged a look filled with uncertainty and resolve. The crowd began to disperse, but the weight of the stranger's warning hung in the air like a dark cloud. Sirens faded into the distance, replaced by the quiet hum of night, and the real questions began to emerge. "What do you think they meant by the fire you've ignited?" Jess asked, her eyes darting around, searching for any sign of a threat lurking nearby. Marcus shrugged, but a chill ran down his spine. "I don't know, maybe they're messing with us. Or maybe there is something deeper going on that we just don't understand. But lives are at stake." Jess's voice cracked, the fear launching her into a whirlwind of emotions. "What if this is serious? What if we did more than save one man tonight?" He took a step closer, their shoulders brushing, and whispered, "That's exactly what we need to find out. We can't just let this go. We can't assume we're safe." Jess nodded, her determination stealing her gaze. "You're right. We should look into it. Find out who that person is and why they're so upset about us saving the guy." They moved away from the scene, hearts heavy but spirits ignited. Each footfall echoed their resolve, a mix of adrenaline and dread propelling them forward. The streets felt different now, shadows longer, corners darker. Do you think anyone else saw what happened? Marcus asked, breaking the silence as he glanced around. Maybe, but who would believe us? Jess sighed, her voice flat. It's not like we can just go up to someone and say, hey, did you see that ominous person with a threat for us? They stopped momentarily at a streetlight, Jess glancing at her phone. I can comb through social media. Maybe someone filmed the incident. Good idea. But we should also talk to the guy we saved. He might have some idea who that figure was. With a shared glance, they shifted gears, both knowing the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There was an urgency to their steps, a drive bolstered by the responsibility they felt. They had stepped into something much bigger than just a rescue. As they made their way toward the hospital where the man was taken, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every ripple in the darkness made his skin prickle. He could feel Jess's nervous energy beside him, her body radiating the same unease. What if they find us? What if that figure Jess started? But Marcus interrupted. We won't let that happen. We're going to stay one step ahead. They managed to share a small smile, one fueled by determination and the flicker of hope that between them, they could stand strong. Arriving at the hospital, they approached the reception desk, where a nurse perched high over her monitor glanced up at them. Can I help you? We're here to see the man who was brought in earlier, the one from the alley. Jess explained, and the nurse's expression shifted slightly. I'll need you to sign in. As they filled out the required paperwork, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were not just dealing with a simple emergency. What had they awakened? Once they were cleared, they moved toward the room, anticipation mounting. Entering, their eyes quickly adjusted to the sterile glow. The man lay unconscious, bandages covering various injuries. His face was familiar yet distant, and Marcus felt a surge of responsibility. We need to know who put him in danger, he whispered to Jess. But as they lingered, a sudden rush of footsteps echoed from the corridor, heavy and purposeful. Sharing a quick look again, they froze with anticipation. Were they about to face the looming threat head-on? Get ready, Marcus mouthed, as the door began to creak open. What they would uncover next could change everything or seal their fate. The door swung open with a swift creak, and both Marcus and Jess instinctively stepped back, their hearts racing. The figure that entered was a hospital security officer, tall, built, with an expression caught somewhere between suspicion and concern. Can I help you? He asked, eyeing them closely. Jess regained her composure first. We're friends of the man who was brought in earlier. We just wanted to. I need to see some identification, he interrupted firmly, crossing his arms. A rush of panic surged through Marcus. They had intended to stay under the radar, not draw attention. But this was not the moment to back down. We know he's in here, and we want to help him, he said, trying to sound confident despite the knot in his stomach. The officer studied them for a moment, then seemed to soften slightly. All right, but you'll need to be quick. Only a few minutes, and no interference. Nods of agreement followed, and Jess felt an intense blow of gratitude. She whispered, "Thank you," as they moved past him and entered the small hospital room. The man on the bed was Michael. They had seen his face just moments before. Now, it was a mixture of bandages and pale skin, each breath a reminder of the fragility of life. Marcus fought to keep his voice steady. "Michael, can you hear us?" His gut twisted. There was no response, just the steady beep of the monitors. Something nagged at him, a feeling that they couldn't leave without at least trying to communicate. "We need to know who did this to you, who put you in danger," he murmured, feeling a lump forming in his throat. Jess squeezed his arm and stepped closer, searching his face for signs of consciousness. "Please, if you can hear us, we want to help." Minutes stretched like hours, filled with nothing but the haunting beeping of the machines. Jess's heart raced. The weight of their mission felt almost unmanageable. But then, just as hope began to wane, Michael's eyelids fluttered, and a faint groan escaped his lips. "What happened?" he croaked, eyes squinting against the bright fluorescent lights. Jess and Marcus leaned in closer, exchanging glances brimming with urgency. "You were attacked. But we stopped it. You're safe now," Jess whispered, her voice laced with relief. Michael blinked slowly as his surroundings came into focus. The guy, he was looking for something. A package. His voice faded, and he looked back up at them, concern etched across his features. "You shouldn't have gotten involved." "What do you mean?" Marcus pressed, leaning forward. "Who was after you?" Before Michael could answer, the door swung open again. This time it was a different security officer, along with a doctor, clipboard in hand. "Time us up," the officer said, casting a wary glance at Jess and Marcus. Reluctantly, they stepped back, frustration flooding over them. "Wait," Jess cried, reaching out. "You have to tell us more." Michael shifted, pain crossing his face. "Find the package," he gasped. "It's hidden. They'll come for you, too." The officers ushered them out as Michael's gaze lingered, filled with warning. The cold hospital exterior felt like a barrier against the chaos waiting outside a world they had unknowingly stepped into. Outside, the night air chilled them. Anxiety spiraled around them. They exchanged whispers, fueled by a mix of fear and urgency. "What the hell is going on?" Marcus asked, confusion shaking his tone. Jess took a deep breath, determination painting her face. "We need to figure this out. If there's a package, we need to find it before they do." As they turned to face the streets ahead, bustling with unaware lives, Marcus felt that chill slither down his spine again. What had they gotten themselves into? But even through the fear, he felt the spark of resolve. They weren't done yet. "Let us go," he breathed, their minds racing with possibilities. And as they plunged into the dark city, the weight of destiny settled upon them. Pulling them deeper into the unknown, was there truly time left to unravel the mystery before it consumed them? As Marcus and Jess stepped out into the bustling night, the city felt alive and yet ominous. Streetlights flickered like stars trying to break through a clouded sky. Marcus could feel the pulse of the urban scenery thumping through the soles of his shoes, a chaotic rhythm matching the panic within him. "Where do we even start?" he muttered, running a hand through his hair. The confusion still clouded his thoughts like a thick fog. Jess pulled out her phone to check for any information she could find about Michael's package. The glow illuminated her face, casting sharp shadows across her features. "Let us think." "Michael said it was hidden. Maybe it's south at his place?" she suggested, her voice laced with determination. Marcus shook his head, skepticism creeping in. "But if they're looking for it, his place might be the first place they check. We can't put ourselves out there like that. We don't even know who they are." Unease wrapped around them like a tight hug, but Jess wasn't ready to back down. "If we don't look, we could miss our chance," she insisted emphatically. "We need to get ahead of whoever did this to him. We owe it to Michael." "Okay, fine," Marcus conceded, the urgency in her voice igniting a fire within him. "Let us head to his apartment. If we can't find it there, we'll figure something else out." They hurried to the car, adrenaline pushing them into action. As they drove, the streets blurred into streaks of color under the headlights. Jess's thoughts raced alongside their speed. "Whatever this package is, it must be important," she said, glancing at Marcus with urgency. "And Michael is warning us about it. Like he meant for us to find it." Marcus nodded, but doubt still lingered. "This feels reckless, Jess. We're in over our heads. And we can't let fear stop us," she replied, her face hardened by conviction. "We may be in danger, but we'll find a way out of this together." Finally, they pulled up to Michael's building, a worn structure that had seen better days. The street was quiet, which felt almost eerie. Jess and Marcus exchanged worried looks, but pushed through the heavy glass door, stepping into the musty lobby. An elevator dinged, opening its doors, and they shared a silent agreement to take the stairs instead. The dimly lit stairwell felt like an entry into another world. With each step, shadows danced along the walls, their breathing echoing like whispered secrets in the quiet. "Second floor, apartment 204, Jess read off the dusty wall guide. They navigated the narrow hallway, lights flickering overhead, and reached the door marked with peeling paint. Marcus knocked softly, each rap against the wood reverberating like drum beats in their fragile bubble. "No answer," he said, glancing around nervously. "Should we just go in?" Jess's heart raced. "We have to. If that package is here, we need to find it before whoever attacked Michael shows up." With a deep breath, Jess twisted the doorknob. To her surprise, it clicked open. The door creaked ominously as it swung inward, revealing a dimly lit room filled with disarray. Every inch of it looked as if someone had been searching in a hurry, papers scattered, furniture askew, the air thick with tension. "Stay close," Marcus whispered, stepping inside. They took cautious steps, apprehension heightening in every creak of the floor beneath them. Suddenly, a faint sound caught their attention, something rustling from the bedroom at the back. Their eyes widened. Had someone else found their way in? Without thinking, Marcus grabbed Jess's hand, pulling her toward the doorway leading to the unknown. "This is it," he said, uncertainty trembling in his voice. "We need to find out what is going on, and we need to do it fast." Just as they stepped into the darkened room, the echo of a sinister laugh broke the silence. It was a sound that would haunt them forever, one that sent dread crashing over them like a tidal wave that in that instant. Everything around them shifted. They were no longer just friends caught in a web of danger. They had become players in a high-stakes game, and the rules were still being written. "Who is there?" Jess called, steeling herself for whatever was about to come. But with that question, the shadow at the end of the room moved closer, and a chilling familiarity settled in the air. Were they ready for the truth waiting just beyond the darkness? As Marcus and Jess stood there, the shadows twisted and shifted into a figure that emerged from the darkness. Heartbeats thundered in their chests, but one flicker of familiarity broke through the tension. The figure revealed a young woman tall, with piercing eyes and a fierce expression. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, a mix of anger and defiance evident in her stance. Are you Tara?" Jess breathed, struggling to comprehend the moment. This was Michael's sister, the one he had mentioned in hushed tones amidst the chaos of their rescue mission. Surprise flashed across the woman's face, quickly replaced by a steely resolve. "You're the ones who saved him," she charged, irritation mixing with concern as she looked them up and down. "What do you really want?" Marcus swallowed hard, realizing that the tension was palpable. "We need to know about the package Michael mentioned. Why was someone after him?" Tara narrowed her eyes, calculating her next words. "It's bigger than you guys realize. They're after something dangerous. If you're here, you might have put yourselves in their sights, too." The ominous warning hung in the air, a weight Marcus could physically feel pressing down on them. "We're not leaving until we figure this out," Jess said, determination flooding her tone. "Michael needs us. He thought it was important enough to send us here. We can't abandon him." "Fine," Tara replied, tension easing ever so slightly as she stepped back to allow them inside. "But if you want answers, you need to trust me." As they cautiously entered the small room, the layers of chaos continued to unfurl. Old documents peppered the floor, half-open drawers revealed more secrets. "This is all that's left of his life," Tara murmured, the raw emotion cutting through her words. "Everything went downhill when he got involved with the wrong people." "Wrong people?" Marcus and Jess exchanged glances. Could it really get darker than what they already faced? Tara grimaced, tossing aside a few crumpled papers. "He got mixed up in something he didn't fully understand. A package. It contained information that could expose a major operation. They want it back, and they'll do whatever it takes." Marcus's heart raced again. The stakes were rising, and they were standing on a precipice. "And you know where it is?" Jess pressed, her resolve unwavering. "No, but I know someone who might," Tara said slowly, gauging their reactions. "If we can find it first, we may save him. But we need to be quick. We've already lost too much time." "Let us go," Marcus exclaimed, urgency igniting his muscles. Together, they formed a united front, slipping into the night. Jess held onto Tara's arm, absorbing every whispered detail of the game they unknowingly joined. They hopped into Marcus's car with a sense of purpose. The city around them felt both familiar and alien. The gnawing anxiety pulsated, but the hope that bubbled within kept it at bay. "Where to?" Marcus asked, determination simmering in his voice. "Meet me at the coffee nest," Tara instructed, her eyes catching Jess's with a fierce intensity. "I have a contact who can help with information. But if we're not careful, we might run into trouble. You can't trust anyone." Just then, Jess's phone buzzed ominously from her pocket. It was a message from Michael. "They know you're looking for the package. Be careful. Whatever we do, we have to stick together," Marcus said with a fierce resolve, feeling the weight of responsibility once again settle on his shoulders. "This is about more than Michael. It's about us now." As they sped through the bustling city, the thrum of adrenaline pulsed through the night. They were more than just friends caught in a whirlwind of chaos. They were becoming a family forged in the crucible of crisis. Finally, they arrived at the coffee nest, a quaint little spot nestled between shadowy alleyways. The atmosphere felt deceptively calm, but the tension in the air was undeniable. Tara scanned the vicinity before stepping out. "We have to stay sharp," she warned, the protective instincts kicking in. The three moved in sync, forming a unified front against the unknown. As they pushed through the door, the smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the unease that hung in the air. "I hope he is here," Tara said softly. But as they entered, they weren't met with warm welcomes or familiar faces. Instead, the vibe shifted immediately. The barista's eyes flicked up in alarm, and whispers began. Someone was watching. "Stay close," Marcus said quietly. They maneuvered to the far side, staying engaged yet alert. Just then, a voice broke through the commotion. "You're the rescue team?" Their breaths caught as they turned to find a ruggedly handsome man approach them, irritation mingling with intrigue on his face. "They're a lot more dangerous than you're prepared for." An urgency infused the air, raising the stakes yet again. "Who are you?" Jess asked, her heart hammering in her chest. "Someone who wants to help," he replied, leaning in, a sparkle of mischief and caution glimmering in his eyes. "But you need to understand, the real danger is just beginning." Time seemed to stand still for a heartbeat as they exchanged glances filled with a mix of fear and determination. They were in this together, ready to confront the fire that had been ignited. "Let us go," Marcus said finally, and with a surge of courage, they prepared to face whatever lay ahead, united in a mission that transcended fear. Now, they had come too far to turn back. There was no stopping the journey they had embarked upon. Hope swirled as they pressed onward, hand in hand, ready for the next storm. And as they stepped through the threshold, they weren't just stepping into danger, they were stepping into destiny. This is where they would carve their path, not only for Michael but also for the bond that had entwined them, taking root amidst chaos and uncertainty. Together, they would rise and emerge transformed. If you're inspired by this incredible journey of transformation, don't wait not even one more second to subscribe now to the channel. You need to show your support. Every like matters, so leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Join the conversation by dropping a comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who also need to witness this amazing transformation. This is the moment to connect and uplift. Together, let us embrace the stories that shape us all.